Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Gemini for February 2016. Check out my website, anniehelpsyou.com, and see my new astrology blog, as well as blogs on other topics that I write about. And check out my upcoming astrology apprenticeship program if you've been wanting to learn astrology and you resonate with how I teach. So what's going on for Geminis in February? What's going on in general in February that's relevant to Geminis? February is a very interesting month, and there are lots of things to talk about that are relevant to February that are not happening in February. So I'm going to give you the whole lay of the land here of things that I think are relevant to your month. This year, we have Mars retrograde. This happens once every 2-ish years. And when it happens, the Mars retrograde transit influences for about 6 months. So April 17th through June 29th, Mars will be retrograde. Mars, which rules your gusto, your oomph, your get up and go, your assertive male part of yourself. You know, the action, the that ambition, the passion, the drive, that is ruled by Mars. So when Mars is in retrograde, you don't have that. Many people are going to be much less driven. If you're an overachiever, you might welcome this time. I have come to welcome Mars retrograde myself because I just tend to relax, and that is uncommon for me. So maybe that is uncommon for you. Maybe you will like Mars retrograde for that. And if you are someone who is already having trouble having motivation, you might have less motivation, and this is even more reason to get some stuff done in February, because January is kind of a wash with Mercury retrograde. Then we have this April 17th through June 29th Mars retrograde, and then the shadow period for Mars retrograde starts on February 18th. So you might be saying, why, Annie, if Mars retrograde shadow period starts in February, and why, Annie, if Mercury retrograde shadow period lasts through February 15th, are you going to call February a time for action? That is a complicated answer, and that is what I intend to convey now. February has some things going against it as far as forward movement. However, it's still much better for forward movement than most of the rest of the months in the year. So you're not going to have these opportunities until August, when the Mars shadow period is starting to wane and other things are happening. And still then we have another Mercury retrograde to deal with. We have 4 Mercury retrogrades this year. Sometimes we have 3, but this year we have 4 plus the Mars retrograde. So it doesn't mean you don't do anything this year. It doesn't mean you don't do anything when the retrograde happens. And I will be making a Mars retrograde video sometime in the beginning of March to go into what it's good to do with these times and things to avoid, etc. But in general, you're going to find your ambitions are running lower. It could be a break for you, or it could be disconcerting for you. And in any case, it's not the time to push out things. You're not going to have full universal support at that time. So you want to try to get some stuff done in February, even if Mercury is not at its full steam. Even if Mars is starting its slowing hints of slowing down, you're still going to have Mars supporting you more in February than you will in March and April. And you're still going to have less to deal with for Mercury in February. With every day that it gets closer to February 15th, the Mercury shadow period wanes more and more. Okay, so that's part 1 of why I think February is a good time for action. Part 2 is because there are at least six 60-degree angles occurring on February 3rd, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 13th. On these days and around these days, this energy of 60-degree angles are occurring, and this brings sweetness that gets sweeter when you do something about it. And how I'm likening this, what I'm likening this to, you know, I like to talk about food, is baking pears. Okay, so if you bake pears, they taste amazing. If you've never done this, then get pears and do it right now, because it's really good. But, so basically the 60-degree angle is like that on its own. It's like baked pears. It's very sweet and it's nice. But when you drizzle honey over the baked pears, it is so much better. And that is what these 60-degree angles are like. If you do something with this canvas, this whatever palette of opportunities, it's going to go further. And you've got a lot of chances to do something with opportunities that are going to come for you, even if there's still this shadow from past energy. So for some of you, many of you, this might mean you have opportunities with things from the past. And that would be a perfect way to bring things forward. If it's something you did in the past, if it's something you're resurrecting, if it's something you're dusting off and getting back into, if it's something that you've been working on and you have to launch it, February is going to be one of your best months. Another reason why February is a good month is because the eclipses happen in March, and eclipse time is notoriously not the time to make action unless you're responding to something that happens. There's a big difference between initiating action, which Mars also rules, by the way, is initiation. So there's a big difference between initiating action and action that's responding to something that comes to you. Eclipse time is the time to respond to the things that come to you. So that makes February tricky because we are in the eclipse time in February. Up to 6 weeks before the eclipses, you can start to get news, events that could be life altering, for the better, for the worse, whatever. It's a very active time, or both. March 8th, the solar eclipse, 18 degrees of Pisces, will bring in big new opportunities. I will talk in the March report about how that looks for Gemini, where these eclipses are happening for you, etc. But for now, we know that we have the solar eclipse there. March 23rd, we have the lunar eclipse at 3 degrees of Libra. So up to 6 weeks before that, so starting at the end of January and February being prime time, you're ripe for potentials for eclipse news. So it is a great time to push through your personal agenda. There's your agenda for yourself, your plan. Then there's the divine plan. And the eclipses tend to bring the divine plan. And if there's a large disparity between your plan and the divine plan, then you're going to be like, what is happening here? I'm taking all this action and then things are happening outside of me to put me somewhere else. Why is that? Because what your plan for yourself is not what the divine plan has, or it was maybe, but now it's changing and you have to do something different. So it is a time to take action on opportunities that come to you. It is a time to push through agendas that you have for yourself. But at the same time, if it's not in alignment, you will be pushed onto a different path. And the degree to which you can have little or no resistance to that change, could be rapid, could be drastic change in trajectory, the easier you're going to have this and the more wonderful it can be. You know, if you can just easily, and for Geminis in some way this is a little bit easier, you know, like, oh, this is what's happening now, okay, I'm going to do that, you know. So the way that you are makes this period of time easier, but if you have strong influence of other signs in your chart that are not this way, it could be a little bit harder for you, you know. In any case, you have the choice to either resist the changes or to flow with the changes and then have your quality of experience be affected by your decision. Now, some of you, your plan for yourself is actually the divine plan. And so things that you do in February that you're taking action on may carry much further from the eclipse influences coming in and boosting what you're doing. So the opportunities that will come in with these 60-degree angles around the 3rd, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 13th are going to come especially in certain areas of your chart. For all Geminis, early, middle, and late degree, major opportunities will come in the 8th house. The 8th house is called the house of other people's money. It's also the house of shared resources. So you and your spousal money, you and your family money, inheritances, loans, debt, credits, grants, funding, collaborations, partnering, sharing resources, merging, etc. So anything in those arenas. This is also the house is ruled by Pluto, so it rules birth and death and transformation and rebirth and the phoenix rising from the ashes and everything along this esoteric journey. You know, anything that is in the lesser seen realms, psychology, mysteries, mystery schools, you know, the whatnots, I call them, the things that most people can't see, but if you have an awareness, you know that there's way more to our lives than what we actually see. And those things are in the 8th house. There are some other houses they fall into, but that is the lesser seen space. So opportunities may come with intuitive ventures, with deep psychological study, with studying mysteries or researching something. Early and middle placements, let's designate this a little bit more. Early, middle, and late degree placements are something that I frequently talk about in the horoscopes. The reason why I do that is more work for me, and it's more complicated for me to organize my thoughts to try to convey valuable messages to you. But I think it's critical, and that's why I do it. Because your chart looks different depending on where in the spectrum of Gemini you are. Whether you're watching for your rising sign, whether you're watching for your sun sign, that degree, 0 through 29 degrees, makes your chart look different. You could have a drastically different chart for the month if you have 2 degrees of Gemini than if you have 28 degrees of Gemini. So I want to speak to that. So the way to figure this out, okay, so it takes the sun 30 days to move through each sign. So there's 30 days worth of Gemini signs on the calendar, basically. And the first 10 are early, and the middle 10 are middle, and the last 10 are late. So from around May 22nd, or whenever it turns into Gemini that year you were born, for the next 10 days, so basically May-born Geminis are early. Then the first 10 days of the month or so, that's middle degree. And then the last 10 days of the sign, around the 11th through the 20th, or whenever it ends that year that you were born, that is late degree. If you're watching for your rising sign, 0 to 9 degrees of rising sign early, 10 to 19 middle, and then 20 to 29 degrees late. Okay, so now that you can figure out where you are on that spectrum of what you're looking for or watching for, we can go into some more specific ways the opportunities can come for you. Remember that early, middle, and late will all have opportunities in the 8th house, or have the potential to have opportunities in the 8th house. The early and middle degree placements will have lots of opportunities in the 9th house, and this is actually coming soon for you late degree placements, so you won't be left out of this. 9th house has to do with teaching and learning and education and the institutions and methods and modes that you teach with. It's different cultures, it's different countries, it's different languages, it's theology and philosophy and religion and everything that is big and broad and all-encompassing. It has to do with international connections and travel, long-distance travel. So the opportunities may come in any of those arenas for you early and middle degree placements. For you late degree placements, you still have some really great opportunities coming in your 7th house. The 7th and the 8th houses are similar in the way that they're both partnership houses. So all Geminis will have opportunities in the partnership realms, but the late degree placements have a little bit extra energy there still in the 7th house, which has to do with your one-on-one relationships, not with resources. See, that's the difference between the 7th house and the 8th house, is that the 7th house of partnerships has to do with your relationship, with your spouse, with your business partner, with your client. And then the 8th house has to do with your resources and their resources. So like your husband and his money and debt, and your wife and her money and debt, and your own money, whatever it is. You merge all that. That's the 8th house. But the 7th house is just the relationship itself. It's just the nature of the interactions with each other, you know. Late degree placements have strong energy for opportunities in the 7th house. Early and middle degree placements will also have opportunities in the 6th house. The 6th house has to do with health, wellness, medical tests, diagnostics, procedures, alternative medical things, acupuncture, things like that. Your daily regimen, what you do every day. So supplements, exercise, diet, things like that. Also pets. Animals are things that you take care of every day. I hope so, right? If you have, that's usually how it works. So they come into the everyday sector. The 6th house also rules your day-to-day experience. So if you're in an office, it's your office life, your office experience. If you're home, it's your home and daily interactions there. So opportunities there for early and middle degree Geminis, and then late degree Geminis still have energy in the 5th house. And the 5th house is called the house of true love. It's the house of romance and children and creativity, creative projects, athleticism, music, singing, dancing, acting, things like that. So strong support there still for the later degree placements. And let's talk for a second about Jupiter. If you go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, and you click on the blog and you put in Jupiter as a search in the blog, this is after January 7th because it's not up as of the time that I'm recording this, but it will be soon. I'm putting together a very comprehensive blog. I'll be doing this for all the outer planets eventually, but I started with Jupiter because Jupiter tends to bring a lot of expansion and growth and fun things. It can bring challenges, but it tends to be more positive. It's also my ruling planet, so I'm partial to it. So anyway, I started with Jupiter, and so you can take the information I give you where Jupiter is for you, for your early, middle, or late degree designation. Then you can go to the website and you can read about more information of how it's relevant to you, things I don't have time to cover in the horoscope. So early degree placements have Jupiter in their 5th house. This house of romance, of true love, of creativity, of children, of athleticism, of all of these things. So you want to read what Jupiter is going through Leo or 5th house. Then you middle and late degree placements, you have Jupiter influencing your 4th house of home, of family, of houses, of the experience of home and family. So you will want to do the search for Jupiter blog and then scroll down to 4th house and see more about these long-term potentials. Jupiter is wherever it is for about a year. And so it's good to know what opportunities are coming and what is likely to be expanded in your life. So check that out, anniehelpsyou.com. If you're interested in having a personal reading, you can go to my website and see my coaching package. And so you go to anniehelpsyou.com, click on coaching. Also check out my virtual coaching program. If you go to the website and then click on programs and then click on Shine, that's my 28-day virtual coaching program. And it's available through a sliding scale, so it is available to everyone, and it's intended to help you find and clear those blocks that are stopping you from being in your highest expression in this lifetime. It's very simple, and this is the nature of, the work itself is not always very simple, but the idea of clearing through the blocks so that you can be set on your course of most best quality of experience, most fulfillment, that is my department. So check that out, and definitely sign up for my free email newsletter. I send out to my people in my group about a month before the upcoming month a write-up with key dates, often in more detail than I give in the horoscopes, what things are happening on what dates and what the energies are having to do with those dates. So that's what you get every month, among other things. And I hope you have a wonderful February, and I'll see you next month. Bye.